Recruiters, what do you actually want from a cover letter? Today, we're diving into a question that feels universal to anyone who's ever stared at a blinking cursor, wondering if the right combination of words might magically summon a job offer. It's one of those topics that sounds simple, but turns into a philosophical crisis the moment you try to write that first sentence. And what makes it even more confusing is that everyone seems to give different advice. So let's pull back the curtain a little and look at what people on the hiring side actually say about cover letters, and what job seekers can learn from it. Now that we've set the stage, let's zoom in on the post that sparked the whole conversation, one filled with questions, frustration, and a little bit of chaos in the best way.
A job seeker admits they have no idea what recruiters expect from cover letters. They've never been taught how to write one, and have never gotten a job because of one. And now they're drowning in questions. Should it be long or short? Personal or professional? Keyword loaded or conversational? Do recruiters even read them? Do they need headlines and addresses and formalities? And in their moment of desperation, they even ask, "Do you want me to beg?" With all that uncertainty on the table, it's time to explore how different people responded, because the range of answers reveals just how murky this subject really is. Just a quick welcome to Better Life FAQs. If you want more simple, practical answers like this, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Now, let's continue.
First up, someone who's not wasting a single extra keystroke. They say they only submit a cover letter when it's required because most recruiters don't read them anyway. This viewpoint resonates with countless job seekers who've spent hours crafting letters that vanish into the digital void. It makes sense. Why put energy into something if the payoff is unclear? But it's also a risky approach, because even if 9 recruiters ignore cover letters, the 10th might care deeply. This perspective also reflects a growing fatigue with traditional hiring rituals. Many candidates feel their time is too valuable to spend on tasks that don't consistently matter. Still, there's a flip side. A well-timed cover letter can sometimes save an application from looking generic, especially when there's something unique that needs explanation. Imagine someone switching careers. Without a cover letter, their resume might look confusing or mismatched, but with one, the path suddenly becomes clear. So while the commenter's perspective is perfectly logical, it may not always serve every situation. The real tension lies in knowing when the effort actually counts, and that makes job searching feel like a guessing game. And speaking of guessing games, our next commenter brings a perspective that simplifies things even further. Maybe too much. This next one hits like a plot twist. A recruiter with over 12 years of experience says they never read cover letters. Ever. Hearing a veteran recruiter admit they've never read a cover letter can be wildly validating for anyone who's poured sweat and tears into one. It highlights how unpredictable hiring practices truly are. But there's a nuance here. Just because this recruiter doesn't read them, doesn't mean none of them do. Industries that value writing, communications, education, marketing, tend to treat cover letters differently. So while this comment may feel like a permission slip to skip writing them entirely, it depends on the field. The bigger revelation is that job seekers are operating in a world with no universal rules. One company might treat cover letters as sacred, and another might toss them aside like receipts. And that inconsistency is what makes job searching so stressful. Yet there's an unexpected comfort here. The pressure to be perfect isn't real if the letter may not even be read. The key is balance. Know your industry, but don't burn yourself out chasing invisible standards. It's about being strategic, not exhaustive. Now let's shift from the world of never reading to someone who sees cover letters in a more practical light. Our third commenter reframes cover letters entirely. They say cover letters are helpful for explaining logistics like relocation or visa status. This comment highlights a surprisingly underused function of cover letters, providing context. Instead of being a sales pitch, a cover letter can simply fill in blanks a resume can't. That's a refreshing perspective for anyone who struggles with finding the right tone or storyline. It's also a reminder that hiring managers aren't just evaluating skills, They're trying to understand logistics that might affect the job. For example, if someone is applying from across the country, a quick line confirming they're open to moving immediately resolves a potential concern. Or, if someone has a work permit that isn't obvious from their resume, the cover letter becomes a place to clarify that. This practical approach strips away the pressure to write something poetic or persuasive. It's less about crafting a narrative and more about removing friction. But it does leave room for subjectivity. Not every recruiter will look at a cover letter for these details. Still, it's a strategic move that can make an application clearer and smoother. From practical to personal, our next commenter proves that sometimes tiny details make big impressions. This one's about a small gesture that changed everything. A candidate once got a life-changing job partly because they addressed their cover letter to the hiring manager by name. There's something almost magical about how such a simple detail, using someone's name, can leave a lasting impression. It signals effort, respect, and genuine interest, which are qualities that can be hard to convey in a stack of applications. What's compelling here is that the commenter wasn't just lucky. They were intentional in a writing-heavy field where communication truly matters. In that context, a cover letter isn't just a formality, it's proof of skill. But even outside writing-centric jobs, personalization can shift the tone of an application. It transforms it from generic to thoughtful. Still, there's a catch. Not every hiring manager will notice or care. And in some industries, finding a name can feel like detective work without a clear reward. But the emotional takeaway resonates. You don't have to do something dramatic to stand out. Sometimes the smallest human touch makes someone feel seen. And in a process that often feels cold and automated, that matters. Next up, we go from personalization to automation, because in the modern job hunt, tech has entered the chat.
This commenter brings AI into the equation. They suggest using ChatGPT to write the cover letter based on your resume and the job posting. This advice reflects the reality of job searching today. Digital tools can take away a lot of the fear and uncertainty. For someone who feels overwhelmed by cover letters, having AI generate a first draft can be a lifesaver. But what stands out is that AI is best used as a starting point, not the whole solution. Recruiters can often sense when something reads too generic or polished. The real power of AI is helping you organize your thoughts, then letting your own stories and personality shine through. It's also a reminder that job applications are evolving. Success is no longer about perfect writing, but about using technology thoughtfully. Take a candidate who's changing careers. AI can help frame their skills, but only they can explain why the shift matters. So yes, this commenter's suggestion is practical, but it still requires human reflection. AI can offer structure, but authenticity has to come from you. And now we pivot from tech-driven clarity to a more creative take on catching attention.
Here comes the storytelling approach. The commenter believes cover letters get read more if they start with an interesting, anecdotal opening. This suggestion taps into the human side of hiring. People remember stories more than lists. Starting with an anecdote can turn a cover letter from a chore into something refreshing. It shifts the tone from formal to relatable and immediately sets the applicant apart. But creativity is a balancing act. Some industries appreciate narrative flair while others want strict professionalism. A quirky opening that works for a marketing agency might fall flat in finance. Still, the core message is solid. If you're bored writing it, the reader will be bored reading it. Storytelling is a powerful tool when used thoughtfully. Consider someone applying to a nonprofit. They could share a moment that shaped their passion. That instantly builds a connection, but it requires judgment. And not everyone feels confident taking that creative leap. Even so, the idea reminds us that cover letters can still be human, even fun, if we let them. Next, we shift from creativity to realism. Because sometimes cover letters feel like a gamble, no matter what you do.
This next person calls the whole thing a crapshoot. They still write cover letters for jobs they care about, even though the interviews they've gotten came from applications without one. This comment captures the chaos of modern hiring perfectly. Even when you do everything right, results don't always align with effort. There's something honest in the way they treat cover letters as an act of enthusiasm rather than a requirement. It shows that sometimes the value is emotional, a way to express interest, even if it doesn't guarantee anything. but it also exposes how unpredictable the job market is. You might write your most heartfelt cover letter and hear nothing back, then send a bare-bones application and get an interview the next day. While that can feel discouraging, this commenter's mindset offers a healthy approach. Put in the effort when it feels meaningful, not just when you think it's required. It's a reminder that authenticity can drive your decisions more than obligation. In a world where outcomes are uncertain, intention becomes the compass. Now let's turn to someone who gives us a little structure, because practical advice is always welcome.
Finally, a commenter delivers clear, actionable rules. They want short cover letters that explain gaps or transferable skills, and absolutely must mention the company name and job title in the first paragraph. This advice brings refreshing clarity to a confusing process. The emphasis on personalization isn't about writing a masterpiece. It's about proving you didn't copy-paste the same letter everywhere. Including the company name and position shows attention to detail, something recruiters consistently value. Their preference for a two-paragraph format also reveals how overloaded hiring teams tend to be. They don't want essays. They want clarity. They want efficiency. It also reframes the purpose of a cover letter as functional rather than persuasive. Think of it like a quick note that fills in gaps a resume can't cover. For example, someone with a recent employment gap can briefly explain the context instead of leaving recruiters guessing. But the most interesting part is how cold and simple the guidance is. It cuts through the noise and reminds applicants that most of the anxiety surrounding cover letters comes from overthinking. And now for one last perspective, another recruiter who echoes a familiar theme but adds important nuance.
Our final voice is another recruiter with a blunt reality check. They say they never read cover letters unless they absolutely have to. And even then, they rarely find anything useful. This comment reinforces a recurring theme. Cover letters occupy an awkward space between tradition and actual usefulness. It's interesting to see the disconnect between recruiters and hiring managers, a mismatch that leaves applicants unsure who they're writing for. This recruiter's transparency is refreshingly honest. They're not dismissing candidates. They're simply navigating a system filled with outdated expectations. The fact that they only skim cover letters when information is missing and still find nothing helpful suggests that most applicants aren't using the format effectively. It highlights how unclear the expectations really are, and it's no wonder job seekers feel confused or overwhelmed. Yet, this comment also hints at a simple truth. The resume does most of the heavy lifting. The cover letter is a bonus, not the foundation. That realization can help dial down the pressure. Instead of seeing the cover letter as a make or break element, applicants can view it as optional context. That shift alone can make job searching feel a little more manageable. With all these perspectives laid out, it's time to pull the threads together and look at what they reveal as a whole.
Across all these responses, a pattern emerges. Cover letters aren't universally loved, used, or even noticed. But when they do matter, they matter in very specific ways: clarity, personalization, and context. The deeper lesson is that job seekers aren't doing anything wrong. They're navigating an inconsistent system with conflicting expectations.
So what can we take away from all this? First, focus on your resume. It's the star of the show. Second, use cover letters strategically, not emotionally. If the job requires one, or if you genuinely care about the role, write a short, clear, personalized note. Include the basics: the company name, the position, and any quick context that strengthens your story. Don't chase perfection, chase clarity. And remember, no single document determines your worth or your future. Job searching is messy, but you don't have to lose yourself in the process. The real goal is to communicate, not perform. As we wind down, let's slow the pace and let the core message settle in, because clarity and intention go a long way, even when the rules feel unclear.
Thanks for joining this deep dive into the strange, unpredictable world of cover letters. Whether you love them, hate them, or still don't know what to do with them, remember that you're not alone in the confusion. Keep your voice genuine, your effort focused, and your expectations realistic. And above all, trust that the right role will see you, not just your documents.